And we are coming to you live tonight from Des Moines, Iowa. Voting is just one day away. Tonight, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are taking no voter for granted. But whether they win or lose, and this is fascinating, could ultimately be decided by the other Democratic candidate still in the mix. Jeff Zeleny is out front with tonight's America's Choice 2016.
Fight for viability and fight for the country that you carry in your heart.
On the eve of the Iowa caucuses, all eyes are on Martin O'Malley.
There is no place on the planet that plays a greater role in determining the trajectory of this race than here in Iowa.
He's still running a distant third, but in the quirky rules of the Iowa caucuses, he's a potential kingmaker. In places where he falls short of 15%, his voters will be asked to pick their second choice, which could tip the balance for Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton.
Some of your supporters, Governor, are viewed as the most important commodity in Iowa right now.
Because of their discerning judgment in candidates.
Right. So if they're not viable in some precincts across this state, do you urge them to follow their own instincts, or should they go one way or the other?
I urge them to hold strong and fight for viability. That's what I encourage people to do.
In Iowa, the second choice can be nearly as important as the first. It helped propel Barack Obama to victory here 8 years ago.
If I'm not your first choice, make me your second choice.
The rules are different for Republicans. Their voters don't have to pick a second choice on Monday night. But the Democratic race is deadlocked. Tom Henderson, the Democratic chairman in Iowa's largest county, is an O'Malley supporter. He said one of the biggest mysteries about the Sanders-Clinton fight is where O'Malley supporters will go.
For most O'Malley supporters, is their second choice Sanders or Clinton?
We don't know. That's always the big question.
But today in Iowa, O'Malley urged voters to deliver a surprise.
I know you feel like you have a birthright on caucus night of upsetting the apple cart and surprising the pollsters and surprising the pundits. And that's what I need you to do now. Here you go.
All right.
O'Malley's campaign is running out of money and time, but for at least another day, he's the center of attention.
How well do you have to do here, Governor?
I don't know. I have to beat expectations, and fortunately the national press has kept those very low for me. So I don't know.
Do you feel like a kingmaker at this point?
No, I don't. I feel like a candidate for President of the United States, and the only one that has a track record of being able to bring people together and get things done. Those are two things that neither of my opponents can say.
All right, Jeff Zeleny is here with me, along with Ron Brownstein, who is CNN's senior political analyst and editorial director of the National Journal. I mean, it's fascinating, the complexity of Iowa. The rules are different for Democrats. They're different for Republicans. But I mean, it is just fascinating. I mean, have you ever seen a race for like this? That's the both of you, but you first, where you just had no idea the night before?
No, it's very close. And the iPhone is going to play a role in it because Clinton precinct captains have a device, an app, that allows them to calculate the delegates and sort of get O'Malley people over to their side. So it's fascinating. They have planned for this moment.
Or the opposite. Or the opposite, to go to O'Malley's side. To go to support O'Malley, to deny Sanders a delegate in some cases.
So it's planning for this scenario. He is key in this race.
You know, one other point that viewers should recognize is that it's really hard to predict what's going to happen because the polls are measuring something different than what we're going to get as a result on the Democratic side. The polls are making voter preference. Yeah. The results we're going to get are share of available delegates. You never get a voter vote total on the Democratic side as opposed to the Republican straw poll.
Which is a touch in the weeds, but I am still struck by how many people, I met voters out there today who were taking a look and still not sure. O'Malley has more support out there than we sort of assumed he did. But, you know, it's a fascinating thing. But the Clinton campaign and Sanders, they know all of his supporters, and they know who his plan B is, if you will.
It is fascinating. I have to say, I think if you can use iPhones to figure it out, maybe we should just be changing the rules altogether here in Iowa. But putting that aside, I mean, what are you looking for tomorrow night? At what point, Ron, are you going to say, okay, this is going to be a really good night for
turnout? Turnout. I mean, you have a very distinct dynamic on both sides, where you have in Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump candidates who do better with less frequent, less regular voters. The more people who show up, it's likely the better it is for both of them. And I think it's unlikely we're going to get anywhere near where we were in 2008 with the Democrats when they doubled the previous turnout total. But the higher we go over that 120, which is the roughly kind of normal number, I think it's better for Sanders and Trump.
120,000. Okay, there's a few million people that live in this state. People watching around the world, Jeff, are going, okay, first first of all, you
Yeah.
just these rules are from the Middle Ages,
Right.
and secondly, they're saying, "Are you kidding me?
Right.
You guys are going to start to
Yeah.
elect the president of
true.
the United States
It's-
with that few people voting?"
It is crazy, but it is supposed to be the beginning of the process, not the end of the process. It's not. It feels like the Super Bowl around here, without a doubt. But
Yeah.
you know, this isn't the end; it is the beginning here. So, but no doubt, some people are
Yeah.
not going to survive this. But what I'm watching for, look at the rural areas as well.
Mm-hmm.
If Hillary Clinton performs well in the rural areas, that's going to be a good night for her. But if a lot of new people are registering to vote, you can register tomorrow night. If those lines are long, that's a good night for Bernie Sanders.
Right, and that's a crucial thing, right,
Right.
Ron? In Iowa, which is it's not unusual, but you can
Right.
actually come in
and
vote, register, and vote that night.
Right, and so far there has not been the increase in registration, through the state, and the polling, the Des Moines Register poll, which kind of cut its chops by catching the increase in 2008, is not seeing it again this time. So we'll see. I mean, that really though is the pivotal question here, and it will matter going down the road, because particularly if Donald Trump can turn out his voters here, where it's hard, it's going to get easier in places like New Hampshire and South Carolina, and the rest of the Republican field is looking at a difficult dynamic in that case.
All right, well, thank you both very much. Get some rest.
Yeah.
All right, and thank you all so much for joining us. Our coverage of the countdown to the Iowa